Hello everyone. This is my second video that I'm making today. I'm pretty bored, as you can tell. Woo! To my legs. Pretty bored. And I've been trying to think of another video I could do because I've just been really in the mood for making videos, and so yeah. I was thinking about kind of doing a vlog video. I mean, I feel like a lot of my videos are sort of blogs, or vlogs, because I usually kind of talk about life and what's going on. So, I guess you could call this a vlog. I don't know what it is. So I think I kind of wanted to talk about something that I usually don't talk about. Well, I've never really talked about at all. And you could say it's kind of personal, but I kind of wanted to talk about just some of the hard times that I've had in my life, and like, hopefully it could help some of you guys who are going through these hard times. You guys are teens or even adults going through these things. I just wanted to kind of give you my input and like how I've gotten through them. I don't want this to be cheesy or anything, but yeah, I kind of just wanted to share with you some things that I've had to go through. So yeah. So growing up, I always kind of had like an easy childhood. I didn't really have anything to deal with, really. But when I hit middle school, the hormones started coming in, and 7th grade was really fun. Of course, I had my insecurities, just being a 12 or 13-year-old. But in 8th grade, that's when things changed drastically. For those of you who watch my videos about epilepsy and seizures and all that, you know that when I was in 8th grade, I had my first seizure. It was in November of 8th grade. I think it's November of 2009, I believe. And I was 13. No, I had just barely turned 14. And that's when things took a turn. So as you can imagine, if you... Okay, I'm going to move you guys back a little bit. If you can imagine, if you had perfect health or whatever, and then one day you just had a seizure, it would kind of freak you out. So when that happened to me, my parents came in and saw me, and it was just crazy, and I had no idea why I was having it. I mean, like I've said before, when we went to the ER, the doctor just said it was probably a one-time thing because a lot of people have a seizure in their lifetime. And even though it's scary, it's like a one-time thing. So that's what I thought it was, because in the past, I had never had any problems with my health or anything. And so yeah, but then a little while later, a few months later, or I don't know how many months later, I had another one, and so I was then put on medication and all that. So, I used to be, well, first I'll start off by saying that I don't know who I would be right now if I didn't have seizures. And I know that's kind of weird because it's like, I don't know how my life would be without seizures, because I know how my life was before I had them. So from age 14 back until I was born. And I remember that, I do, but it's just weird because I've had them for what seems like forever now. So, okay, so I don't really, trying to figure out how to say this. I don't know how my life would be if I didn't have seizures right now. Excuse me. I don't know how it would be if I didn't have seizures. right now anyway. Because throughout the years, sorry guys, throughout the years I've had to grow up so much. And I used to be, well, okay, I'll start out by, so in 8th grade, when I first had the seizure, and I went on medications after that and all that, I went through my 8th grade year with seizures, and you can imagine how that was. That summer of 8th grade, right after 8th grade that summer, I had always had, this is kind of weird, okay, but I'm talking about my trials, but I had always obviously had crushes on guys, like, growing up, okay, and, but they were just crushes. They were the type of thing where you would write in your journal, like, at least this is how I did it. I would write all the guys I had crushes on in my journal, and, like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much I liked them. And then, when the summer of 8th and 9th grade came up, I was at this, like, extravaganza thing for a school, like, an elementary school, and my friend introduced me to this guy, and it was kind of like I was 14 years old. It wasn't, like, a serious thing, but he said he liked me even though he had barely met me. But, of course, being young, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so romantic, you know, but now I just look at it and I'm like, what the heck, I knew him for 5 minutes. Okay, it's weird. But yeah, so that made me feel really good, and I didn't talk to him that much because he would always say how his dad wouldn't let him talk to me or whatever. I don't know. But then, that summer I also went to, like, this youth conference camp thing for all the youth. And, see, my other friend had been telling me about this guy who was really creepy, and she didn't like him, but he was obsessed with her. And being me back then, I was like, I'm gonna get him for you, I promise I'll get him to leave you alone or whatever. And so I met him at the camp thing. We were in, like, this barn thing, and it was raining really hard outside, so we were all just stuck in there for a while. And she said, Sarah, that's him over there. And he was standing next to this other guy talking, and I said, okay, I got this. And so I walked up to him and I said, hey, so I hear you like my friend. And her name's Taylor. I'll be like, hey, sorry guys. Hey, I heard you liked Taylor. And he was really quiet, so he just kind of looked at me and said, yeah. And I said, well, why are you stalking her or whatever? And so I was just, I don't know, I was being weird and I was talking to him, but at the same time, the guy who was standing next to him, was just kind of staring at me, and I thought he was really cute. And now that I look back, I'm like, he really wasn't cute. But anyways. So after that, I went up to Taylor and I said, who's that guy that's next to Ben? And she's like, oh, his name is Brandon. And I'm like, okay. Then somehow I got Ben, the creepy guy Ben, his email, and we started emailing. And he's Japanese, so he was in Japan that summer later. And we would email each other all the time. And I told him how I really liked Brandon. And he told me that he would be able to get Brandon to like me, which made me really happy because no guy has ever liked me. So it was usually just one way, you know, me liking them. And he said, I know Brandon better than he knows himself, so trust me, I'll get you to be together with him. I'll get you to be girlfriend and boyfriend or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. And so he talked to Brandon, and then Brandon friend requested me on Facebook, and we talked, and it was really weird because we hadn't even hung out once, but we were talking, and I don't even know, we kind of, like, talked for a second, and then I'm like, hey, I like you, and he said, yeah, I like you too, but, I don't know, it was like, I was 14 and he was 16 or something, and he said, I like you too, and I said, so, do you want to, like, be boyfriend and girlfriend? And he's like, yeah. And he was, like, the most boring person ever now that I look back at it. And he said, so we started dating. I mean, I guess it was dating, but it wasn't like real serious or anything. And so we were dating, but we never hung out. And then one time we wanted to hang out, and so I got my friend to come with me, and then all his friends came, and we all met at a grocery store and all that. And I don't want to get into too many details, even though I've already been pretty detailed in this. Dang it. So yeah, we hung out, and it was really awkward because we barely even talked, but, sorry guys. Yeah. Anyways. So we hung out and all that, and I would get into trouble because, well, so one time he walked me home with his friends, and, my parents didn't know about him, and so one time my dad saw him out the window, and I didn't want to, like, I was always the girl who would tell the truth. I would never lie to my parents, but it started happening when this happened. So my dad looked out the window, and he said, "Sarah, who's that?" And I said, "Oh, his name is Ace," which was his friend's name. He's like, "Oh, okay." So basically I thought I was, like, really smart, and so I would sneak out to see him, or I would, like, find excuses to be able to hang out with him. But apparently my parents, like, knew more than I thought they did. And I remember there was this one time where I wanted him to watch a movie with me and my friend, who lives across the street from me. And, her parents didn't care if he came over. But my dad was hanging out in the front yard, like, working in the garage or something. So I knew that if Brandon walked up with me, then my dad would see him and get all mad. So I had Brandon wait at the bottom of the street, and then I would text him when it was time for him to come up, when the coast was clear. But the coast was never clear, and so Brandon was waiting there for like an hour, and I finally texted him, and I'm like, "Hey, you can come up," but he had already walked home, and I kind of feel bad about that, but he's a jerk, so whatever. So yeah, things like that happened, just a lot of things like that. We would sneak out to see a movie, all that stuff, and the thing is, I would always break up with him, and then we'd get back together, like, the next day, or, like, whatever, and I became obsessed with him. And so one day, well, I introduced him to my group of friends at the time, and there was this other girl who is, how do I put this nicely? She's a slut. Okay. Basically, whenever she knows that a girl, like one of her friends, likes a guy, she goes after him and she steals the guy from them. So really, no one would ever like to tell, like, none of my friends would ever tell her who they liked, because then she would just go steal them, even if she didn't even like them. So, you guys probably know of someone like that. But, I guess me and Brandon had gotten in a fight when we were talking on Facebook once. And, she messages me and she says, "Hey, Sarah, you need to stop being mean to Brandon." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "I'm not being mean." She's like, "Yeah, well, he says you are." And I said, "Wait." And then I messaged Brandon and I said, "Are you talking to her?" And he said no. So basically he lied to me. And then I said, "Casey, you're not, Brandon says he's not talking to you." And she said, "Well, we are." And so he lied to me. And he was, like, gossiping about me, saying I was being mean and stuff like that. And so then, they got together. And I thought that, because she would always get together with guys and then break up with them, like, really soon after. But they didn't break up. They stayed together for about 1.5 years. And, you know, actually before that, this girl KJ, got together with him, and she actually talked to me about it. She said, "Hey, so I don't want it to be weird, but would it be weird if I dated Brandon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually I wouldn't really like it." And she's like, "Okay." But then she goes and asks him out anyway. But apparently Brandon really only dated her to make me jealous. And I dated this guy, Jeremy, to make him jealous, and that was like the worst relationship ever, because I dated him for a month, and he didn't hold my hand, we didn't kiss or anything. We would hug every once in a while. He would always go to Casey's locker, because they dated in like 8th grade. He would always go to her locker, he would never walk me to class, anything, so I broke up with him after a month, and that was agony, because I tried breaking up with him after school once, but then this girl came and talked to him, and I couldn't, and then he had to go to the bus. So the next morning I went up to him and I said, Jeremy, I need to talk to you. And so we like walked away, and I'm like, you and I both know it's not working out. And he's like, yeah. And so I'm like, I think we need to break up. He's like, okay. But the week before that, I had seen that he wasn't like getting into the relationship at all. Sorry, guys. I had seen he wasn't getting into the relationship at all, and he like didn't even care about me. So I talked to him the week before I broke up with him, and I'm like, Jeremy, I'll give you a week, but you're not like, you don't even care about me. And he's like, okay. And so I gave him a week, but he kept doing that, so I broke up with him. So, anyways, so I dated Jeremy pretty much just because my group convinced him to ask me out. Anyways, and then so Casey and Brandon dated for a long time, and she finally broke up with him, and actually she didn't even love him. Like, people would ask her if she ever wanted to get married to him, and she's like, oh, I don't love him like that. And I'm like, okay. Basically, that was all freshman year, and then sophomore year was my, like, worst year ever. It was the start of my really deep depression. I pretty much did everything to try and get him back. It never worked. I remember I wrote him a story, and I had my friend, well, I wrote him a story, and I gave him my ID card from 7th grade because he liked it so much. I gave him a bunch of stuff, got him a stuffed animal, he loved it. He loved pug dogs, and so I got him a stuffed animal of that, and then had my friend go to his house and give him the box full of stuff. And I guess Casey, his girlfriend, found it. She ripped up all the stuff, burned it, and then I guess what she did, this is terrible, she brought the story to school, crossed out a bunch of stuff, was vandalizing it, writing all over it. My parents actually warned me not to give it to him because they figured out I was writing a story to, you know, and gonna give it to him. They didn't know what it was about, but they were right though. But that day I was in the lunchroom with one of my friends, and then my other friend ran in and she's like, Sarah! I'm like, what? And she's like, and she was holding a thing that was ripped in half, like paper, and she's like, this is your book. Casey's writing all over it. She's vandalizing it, blah, blah, blah. She was like telling me everything that was happening, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I got so mad. So I walk over to the spot where we all ate, and all the people I thought were my friends were sitting there laughing while she was reading it and crossing everything out. And I walked over and I looked at them, and they just looked at me and laughed. They didn't even, like, care or anything. I sat down, like, kind of, so they would sit in the front stairs, and then there was this little spot over there where the elevator was. So I sat there, and basically I put my hand in my legs, and I was crying. And then this one guy came over, and he lifted up my head, and he wiped away my tears for me, and it was really nice. But I skipped my last class because I was crying so hard. And then my friend, the one who actually delivered the present for me to Brandon, she found out what happened, and she was like, I'm going to report this for harassment. So she marched to the front office and said, I need to report something for harassment. And I was like, don't do this. And then she said, no one treats my friend this way. So we went to the vice principal's office and started telling him all about it. And instead of staying with me, she went to class. Made me really mad. But the vice principal guy said, don't worry, we're not going to tell, like, because they were going to call them into the office later. And they said, don't worry, we're not going to say who filed this or whatever, because my friend had actually grabbed the paper out of Casey's hand and brought it with him, so he was reading it. And he said, don't worry, I won't tell them who gave it in, but of course they figured it out. I mean, who else is going to file for harassment for that? And then Brandon messaged me on Facebook and said, who the F do you think you are? You filed harassment on my girlfriend. Don't ever effing talk to me again. So yeah, that's how that went down. And I know this video has been 20 minutes already, but it's going to be pretty long. So that's how that went down, and I hadn't ever talked to him ever again after that, and that was sophomore year. So I was 16. So it's been 4 years. I've looked him up on Facebook like twice since then. And I heard from one of my friends, who's friends with Casey, anyway, that he actually got kicked out of college, or kicked out of his apartment because he couldn't pay for it, and then he had to sell his car because he couldn't pay for it, and then he moved back in with his parents. So, yeah, so there's that. That was like the hardest thing I had ever gone through. I had so many, sorry, this thing's so annoying. I had so many dreams, like so many things I wanted to do. I was actually willing to give up anything to be with him again. I was obsessed with him. I wanted to get him back. I was used to him worshiping me because he pretty much did, because he had never had a girlfriend before. But then when he broke up with me, I broke up with him, but when he stopped talking to me, I went crazy. So that was definitely the hardest thing I'd ever gone through. And I know it doesn't sound as bad, but it really was. But I did learn a lot from that. I became really strong. And I can't imagine where I would be if I was still with him. Because he sleeps around all the time, I've heard. And just, I don't know where I would be. So, frankly, even though I had to go through all that, I'm really grateful that I did. Otherwise, I would still be with him, probably. So yeah, that's definitely, like, the main thing. And then on top of that, having seizures, having epilepsy, that definitely has made it a billion times worse. But just at the time when you're going through these things, obviously you don't think about it being, oh, I'm so grateful I'm going through these things because I'm going to learn so much. Yeah, no. At the time, you were thinking, I hate my life. Why is this happening? I don't want to do this anymore. And even though at the end I always tell myself that I'm so glad I learned from it, during the actual thing that I'm going through, I'm not thinking that. So, guess what I'm trying to say is, just don't give up, because, and this sounds really cliche, but just don't give up, because it's not worth giving up. I mean, I've gotten so strong from everything that I've had to go through. And just even the little things. I mean, even just, I started college in January, okay, in Idaho. And I'm back. I didn't stay the whole time. And it was because of my health and all that. And so I just couldn't stay, and I felt terrible about myself while I was there as well. I mean, I couldn't even go to class most of the time, and I couldn't do really any homework at all because of my health, and it just was so bad. But I felt terrible about myself because my roommates would gang up on me, and just how I couldn't even survive in college because of my health and all that. I didn't think anything good was coming out of it. But really, it did, because now I'm here and I'm getting my medication figured out. And, you know, I will go back, and I don't know when, but I'm not going back to Idaho because it's not for me there. But I am going to go back to college, and I'm just so glad that I was able to get through that. And I feel really cheesy, but I am very glad that all that is over. Anyways, this video is very long, but I hope you guys I hope I was able to get to some of you guys. I just don't want you to give up. I mean, I know so many people who go through the same stuff as me, and I see how painful it is for them. And I just want to, like, give them strength. And it's sometimes really hard to, because I'm not very good at comforting people. But just in the end, it's so worth it. And no matter how hard it is for you right now, no matter, like, you may think that it's not going to get better at all, that your situation is too bad to get out of. That's not the case. You'll be able to get out of it, and it will be okay. And so I really hope that you guys don't give up and that you stay strong, because it's so worth it. And yeah, you guys are the greatest. I might be making another video later, but who knows how many people are going to watch this. But I love you guys. You're the best, and never give up. Stay strong, because you can do it. You can get through it. You're strong. And even if you say you're not strong, you are. So I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and probably talk to you fairly soon. But definitely talk to me on Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, and you can email me. I got rid of my Twitter today just because it's pretty much worthless to me. So, but I will talk to you soon. Bye.